As a kid, I just thought my parents had a lot of money. The minute I picked up the racket, they saw a big, happy Rohan. Common topic among the boys there especially was whose dad was more strict. Growing up, you're never taught to really go and express yourself. I feel my wife being a psychologist also really helped in the way of communicating on how I was feeling. Everybody just writes you off. You just go through the most difficult time. We are not a sporting country, to be honest. We go to watch the celebrity of the sport.
एक क्रिकेट ऑब्सेस्ड कंट्री में किसी और स्पोर्ट्स को चूज करने के लिए काफी हिम्मत चाहिए. उस स्पोर्ट्स में फिर आगे बढ़ने के लिए काफी पैशन चाहिए. उस पैशन को फिर करियर में बदलने के लिए काफी मेहनत चाहिए. और उस मेहनत से अपने देश का पूरी दुनिया में नाम रोशन करने के लिए काफी रोहन चाहिए. यस, आई एम सो एक्साइटेड फॉर आवर गेस्ट टुडे, जो टेनिस के ओल्डेस्ट नंबर 1 प्लेयर तो हैं ही, बट इंडिया के कूलेस्ट, शार्पेस्ट, नाइसेस्ट एंड ग्रेटेस्ट स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन में से भी हैं. Please welcome to our show, Padma Shri Rohan Bopanna.
Hi Nikhil, lovely.
Rohan, welcome to season 2 of BeAManYaar, presented by the Man Company. You've just won the Padma Shri, and that's such a huge honor. We've all been so inspired by seeing your journey over the years, and at 43 now, you continue to reach new levels of success. So, I mean, absolute hats off to you.
Thank you.
We have a segment that we called Unboxing Boyhood.
Okay.
I'd love for you to check out some of the nostalgia items that you have, and then tell me what comes to mind when you see them.
Wow. I'm curious to know, how you managed to get all this, but yeah, it is massive.
Yes,
I must say, yeah.
Yeah, there are a few items that I'm hoping will resonate with you.
I really wonder who the culprit behind this is to making you get all these, wonderful pictures. I mean, this is just special. This picture. This is where my tennis journey began. This holds so much of amazing memories, and also some days when I probably didn't want to go to play tennis because it was that much harder, so difficult, waking up at 5-6 in the morning, going to the tennis court. So when I look at this picture, yeah.
So this is the Madhapur Country Club.
This is the Madhapur Club. It's about 250 kilometers from Bangalore in Coorg.
Yeah.
I grew up in a coffee plantation. That has been a family business. I think that's where the love for the sport began. And I think when I was 10, maybe 11, my dad said, "Okay, you know what? I'll take you to the tennis court, see if there is some interest." And both my parents, they say the minute I picked up the racket, they saw a big, happy Rohan at that point of time, just wanting to, play. And I think I was always somebody who wanted to be outdoors. Extremely naughty as a kid, did everything else apart from wanting to go to school.
I would love to see some of the other pictures for you to talk about.
So, if you look at this picture here, me holding this massive trophy, right? It was one of the first tournaments, I won. And I think even today when I'm winning matches, the trophy is not this big. So this is it's almost as, tall as me. And these posters, if you see of McEnroe, Leander, Chang, Sports Star always had a centerfold.
Yeah.
And they had...
I have bought so many of those growing up.
Yeah.
Sports Star.
And the club always subscribed it. And thankfully, I got it because most of my friends went to hostel. So they were away. I was the only one in my age, I think. So I always, anytime a tennis thing, I came and I stuck it in the room. And I
don't see a female sports person there, because for me, the first poster...
A little bit of Martina Navratilova there. It's a little cropped off.
But, it's interesting because for me, the my introduction to tennis in that sense happened to through Sania Mirza. They was the first female pin-up player in that sense that people would just kind of look up to. But I'm wondering that for you, the introduction was always to the male players?
100% looking at the female players as well. Gabriella Sabatini was my all-time favorite. I mean, I think one of the main reasons is because she had a single-handed backhand. And back then, I think the only tournament which is really shown, especially, I mean, coming from Coorg, was Wimbledon. So, you know, and during that time, I remember my dad used to always send me up to the terrace and the antenna and keep moving it. And then he would say, okay, a little bit, hold it there. And, you know, I'm sometimes there 15, 20 minutes just hanging there because, you know, the reception is the best, you know, at that point of time. I mean, so that's like, you know, a big memory of tennis when growing up. Stefan Edberg was my really big, you know, role model, as you can see, you know, here. I mean, as you see, my favorite song and favorite actor, Aamir Khan, and, you know, Pehla Nasha is my all-time favorite song.
Why is that?
I think it's just a calm feeling, even till today, wherever I am, right? In the evening, just before I go to bed, I just play that online and I say, switch off after the end of the track. It is just, I think it just calms me down completely. It's just a beautiful, beautiful song.
I mean, it really is, but it is a love song, right? Like
it is a love song. I don't know what it is.
Don't tell me that the first time you heard this song, you were not thinking of a crush of yours, or you were not interested in.
I probably was. I think, you know, probably was. You know,
there has to be a story behind that.
I'm sure there was at that point of time. There must have been, or that you know, resonated with me, and also the other memories, these cassettes. I mean, that's you know. Not only cassettes, but putting the pen in and, you know, sometimes trying to fix those, you know, those. These days are incredible. I mean, you know, just... And, you know, waking up for tennis, I had this big alarm clock, which made the most... And in Coorg, everything is so quiet and, you know, I remember when I was starting tennis, what I hated was just waking up and doing that runs at 5 a.m. My dad insisted I would do it, you know, just go for 5 kilometers. And the hardest part, it was super scary. There's no street lights, right? So it's pitch dark. And, you know, suddenly there's like a dog which comes and starts chasing you from nowhere. And, you know, I'm running through these coffee plantations. The closest neighbor to us is 2-3 kilometers away. So it's not like there's, you know, people around or anything. And then after a week, I convinced my dad to ask my driver to run with me.
Now, there is obviously a stereotype of the tennis dad. You know, Agassi also, I think in his autobiography has also written about that. We've seen King Richard, the film that Will Smith starred in about Serena and Venus's story. When you're growing up, when your father tells you at that age, when everyone else around you is chilling in their childhood, you know, playing video games or whatever it is, or just going out and having a good time, and you have to run at 5 in the morning. How do you deal with that as a young person? What is your equation with your father at that time? Do you like him? Do you get irritated with him? Why is he making me do this?
I hated it. You know, especially when, like exactly what you said, your friends are there, we go to this tennis club and they are hanging out a little later, and then before school, play tennis as well, and then go attend class. I mean, you're almost dead by the time, you know, midday comes around. You're so tired. I don't think my dad kind of knew any other way. It was not like he could just Google and find out or anything. It was what the books kind of back then told him.
Sure.
No matter how much I complained, right? There was nothing else I could do, and it's not like I could just run away from home. I mean, like in Coorg, in the middle of the estate, there's nowhere to run.
Street lights.
Yeah, no street light. There's nowhere to run. I mean, it's kilometers away. I mean, before even I get to anywhere. So even my dad knew if this guy runs, he's not going far away. Yeah, but so later on, I got to know that my mom, when I was talking to her, she said, we disagreed a few points, but we never did in front of you. You know, so I said, well, no
you could have taken my side.
Yeah, you know, but I think somewhere in me, I wanted to still be outdoors, right? Still be playing. I didn't want to go to school at all. I mean, that did not. So I thought, okay, maybe this is the better way option, you know?
This is lesser of two evils.
Yeah, 100%.
a lot of the times parents have their dreams about themselves that they cannot fulfill, that they sometimes put on their children, which can sometimes be unfair. But of course, in your case, there was talent as well. But what came first? Was it his dream, or was it your talent that he saw, that he was like, what, I think this boy has potential?
I think first his dream. There's no doubt on that. I was born 1980, but 75 they had gone on the honeymoon to England.
Okay.
It's when he actually first went into Wimbledon and everything. Without having a ticket, and him and his one uncle of mine, they walked up to the stadium and somebody walked out. I think that's where he said, okay, if I have a kid, I'm going to introduce him to this sport. And I have an older sister. He did introduce it to her, and she was far from it. She said, this is not it. I'm not waking up or doing this. And he saw that, I was somebody who really enjoyed it. And I think he said, okay, you know what, I'm going to push this guy and see, so there was his dream, no question, I think. And then he saw the passion, from my end, and to say, okay, let's, start this journey and see how it goes.
Tell me a moment from your childhood where, whether it's with your father or mother, you had like a conversation where you felt like this is something I want.
When I started going for some tournaments, I used to see these kids playing. So that encouraged me in terms of doing that. But then the training part was either hitting against the wall constantly or just being there, my dad feeding and, hitting with him or trying to, see how long I can keep the drills going or push it. Back then there was nothing, and Coorg had no gym, no nothing. He, in our place, they used to bring firewood, to heat up water. So, that log of wood was there, and he gave me a hammer and he said, you need to start hitting this. So every day when he had the siesta, and especially on the holidays, afternoon I would hit 1 hour every day on this. And there was no recovery, no nothing. That's when the altercations happened. And I said, you know what, I don't want to do it. But there was no saying, there was nothing I could do there to say, I want a break. Unless it rained, maybe I got a break.
Because you said that your elder sister, they said, okay, fine. If you're not interested in it, it's okay. But with the boy of the house or the, man of the house, the son, it's always, there's an added pressure that comes to, that he has to make us proud in a certain either academic thing or a certain trophy achievement thing or a sport or something of that sort, because he's carrying the family name. Have you had like a healthy conversation with your father about this?
I've 100% had the conversation. I don't know if it was healthy or not. But he surely does understand. I remember when he took me to tournaments, we would take a bus overnight, say from Bangalore to Hyderabad. We reach in the morning, play my match, few hours later. And then if I'd lose, he would be very upset. And then you take the night bus again back. Wow. And so then later on over the years, he realized that athlete needs to go rest, recover, and then may be able to perform. But by then, he was looking at it, how do we save money? If we go take the bus today, then we reach in the morning. Otherwise it's just an extra night. You're going to pay for that. And, and today he definitely understands that and the importance of that, which I'm glad, I think he appreciates that in many ways.
Did you ever miss looking at other boys around you? Any part of a conventional childhood that you feel you did not get?
I think the common topic among the kids were, the boys there especially, was whose dad was more strict. That was a very common thing, of what level the striction,
So who won?
I don't know if there's a winner to it. I mean, because everyone had a great story there to, bring up, and I think, and we just thought, okay, that's the norm.
So it's interesting. You moved away from home because you wanted to get away from this, but at some point you obviously fell in love with the sport, And when did that happen? You went to Pune from Coorg, right?
Yeah, when I was moving to Pune, actually the coach. Nandan Bal was the coach, and he had an academy in Pune, and he had come to Mysore, and my dad spoke to him and asked whether we could go there. And I don't think I blinked an eye, and I said, let's go there, because little did I know that even in Pune, I had to wake up at 5 a.m. I was like, thinking that, okay, this doesn't happen. But they had 5:45 fitness I had to reach. So I had to wake up at 5 to, get on a bicycle and, go to this place. And they had a strict rule, this academy has a strict rule. If you don't get to the fitness, you can't play tennis the whole day.
Yeah.
And there was nothing else to do there apart from playing tennis. There was nothing. I didn't have any friends. I didn't speak the language.
Yeah.
So it was extremely difficult. And tennis was the, primary focus, just to do it and do it properly every day. The minute I got onto the tennis court, in the tennis atmosphere, everything else for me, even till today, it's cut out. I just love being there, love competing. When it came to the day of showing up and being there at tennis court, unless I was extremely sick, I don't think I ever missed, practice or, being there.
So tell me one thing, Rohan. Now, cricket has always been far more lucrative than a tennis. Why do you think that, without the money, without that institutional support, without that fan base, we have gully cricket, we don't have gully tennis, so with all of these things against you, why do you decide that, okay, I'm going to now carry on and I'm trying to get really good at this and I'm going to try to be a champion at this? When does that shift happen? What makes you take this decision that this is my career?
As a kid, I think I just thought my parents had a lot of money. Because I said, okay, I'm going here, I'm traveling there, they're going to pay for this, they're going to pay this. We had no idea how, expensive this can be, right? I mean, because the coach is calling my dad and he's paying the bills. You're not handling the money, or, you don't know how much the costs are. Only obviously later I got to know how difficult the situation was, on what all they went through to raise that money in order to make that, happen. And so
you have to pay for your own hotels, you have to pay for your own travel.
Even till today, I do
Even till today.
Yeah, that's why we, I say, we are not a sporting country, to be honest. We are not, we don't really go and watch sport in terms of supporting or the sportsmen. We go to watch the celebrity of the sport. Even today, cricket, we watch when the top Indian batsmen are playing, then we go into the stadium to watch.
Correct.
In case they're not playing, we are happy to watch from home.
Yeah.
So sport is still growing. Thankfully, today it's been encouraged a lot, which is, growing. So back then, I didn't know how expensive it was going to be. Only when I became 19, 20, when I started traveling, and then you feel that, you can't be taking money from your parents.
And your parents had taken a loan at that time?
Many loans, I think. Many loans. And, thankfully they had some good family friends also who helped, my parents a lot. And which I got to know years later.
Yeah.
It was very, very, tough. And only when I had a major breakthrough at the age of 21, I won a big national event in Chennai.
Yeah.
And that is where the belief actually changed, was at that event in Chennai, because I had lost to the players who I was playing in that tournament. And the first time I ended up beating them and ended up winning the tournament. And that is the switch which happened, Nikhil. To be honest, it wasn't earlier. Anyway, I was just this journey kid going tournament to tournament, and then peer pressure my parents had from all the other friends, family, saying, why are you doing this? Why not take the education route? Why are you spending so much? And what if he doesn't become a tennis player? What if he doesn't do this? So constantly hearing it from close people that he's not going to make it, he's not going to make it, he's not going to make it, adds that much more pressure. And then when you lose, that frustration also is more.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow somebody is going to say, oh, what happened? He lost. Right? In sport, everybody is a coach.
Yeah.
Everybody gives you, advice on this. But I say that, has any parent ever gone to a classroom and sat there and told the teacher what to do?
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
But when it comes to sport, we all think we are coaches. We all think we know what we want to do. 8-10 months we do research to get to the best schools and we send our kids to the best schools. But when it comes to sport, we want them to go to the closest to our house, right? But we want them to become champions.
Yeah.
So that is where I think my dad and mom had a great vision to send me to Pune. They said, okay, nothing's going to happen in Coorg.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm thankful for them. I mean, no matter, it was far away from home, you're not even, and you see your friends going to birthday parties, going to functions. And after some time, I felt, what, I'm not missing anything. I'm traveling the world.
Yeah.
I'm doing something very different where nobody else is doing that. And I started enjoying that.
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to your peers, right? When you see them doing well, you want to be accepted.
Yeah.
Right? And that is where, as a boy, man, you feel that you come to a place when you're accepted by the rest there. Otherwise, you feel left out all the time. And tennis being a lonely sport and traveling to these countries by yourself, there are, I think, numerous times I've eaten dinner alone. Or just at room service, or you just pack something, come eat, these countries you go to, because you don't have friends.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. I'm telling you today, yes, everybody looks at, that you get to travel all these great places, be there, and everybody wishes, to do the same thing. But I said, I pay for my own ticket. So if you pay for a ticket, you could do the same thing. Nobody's stopping you from doing it, so.
When did you first start feeling accepted by your peers? When was the moment that you felt that I am now a tennis player?
I think when I got selected to play for Davis Cup in 2002.
How old were you at this time?
I was 22. This also happened right after that tournament in Chennai. That's when I got noticed, I feel. And I went from someone who was playing tennis to a tennis player. Also, my parents' only dream when I started playing tennis was, I hope that our son plays for India, one day. And my dad and mom threw a massive party in Coorg, called all their friends, and it was a big thing for them because they had also gone through so much. Yeah. And today to say yes, he's playing for India. I mean, at the end of the day, in tennis, there's only 5 or 6 players who make that team. Right? So that is where I was accepted.
So I everything that I've seen and followed your career over the years, in your 20s you did fair enough. You started off as singles. Singles didn't really take off for you in the way that doubles has. What was that journey for you like?
As I said, you're traveling by yourself. I had a great friend through the tennis circuit who I got to know was Aisam Qureshi from Pakistan. Yeah. So he was one boy from Pakistan traveling, me from India traveling, and most of the South Americans, they're hanging out together, or when you come from European countries, there are a lot of people together. So we had common interests, at least common interest in food, and so we started
movies and language.
Exactly, and then we said, okay, let's try and plan the similar calendar, so at least we have some kind of company.
That's so sweet.
And that was beautiful. That friendship, I think, began such a long time ago, and the Indo-Pak Express came, I think, 4-5 years after we even started traveling together. It didn't start right away. It just so happened we didn't have a partner one week, and we said, okay, let's try and play together. And that is where actually that journey started. And when we were there, we hung out off the court so much. We had amazing time. And then when we played on the court, our camaraderie was so good. That showed in that journey, and that is where our doubles was going far better than our singles.
So when you are playing at that level, and if the win is yours, then it's the win of the country, but if the loss is yours, it's also the loss of the country. Is it really hard to digest that it's not that I've gotten that support to get here, but when I lose, I'm being written about that India lost. You are one person. There's a burden of an entire nation who has managed to break through these ranks and get here. How do you decide to get up every day and be like, no, I'm going to do the next game again. I'm going to go to the next tournament again, no matter the support around me?
No, we get abuses every day. Social media is great, but you get that abuses also. It's constant, right? It's there. everybody feels they're also part of it, so they can just, it's hard. Every day you need to wake up and say, be strong, be there. You're away from family, away from friends, you're sitting there in these hotel rooms. There's been time, there was a time for good 4.5 months I didn't win a match.
Yeah.
So you're doing that. It's brutal. It's brutal. Like you said, if you have that support, then it's easy to play the sport. You're not even thinking of it twice. Where can I afford a coach? Can I afford a physio? I've gone to numerous companies asking for sponsorships, but I've been declined. Just the fact that I understand where they come from also, because tennis is not shown in the country. Cricket today is popular because no matter where they play in the world, we are able to watch it.
Yeah.
Any sport, if it's not telecast, we don't know who they are. Even as much as last year's US Open, my team was calling the media broadcasters to say, please show my match. And they say, no, it's only one Indian, why we can't show.
My God.
So, I'm just saying is, nobody really knows there's an athlete playing at the highest level of a tournament because it's not telecasted. We've had so many athletes whose talent has, unfortunately, not come out there to give their best because they haven't had that support.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I feel like sitting here just listening to you right now, I'm just feeling, the enormity of your achievement is just dawning upon me. I see a lot of male athletes when they have tough mental health situations, especially in tennis, to kind of break their rackets, to have those outbursts on the tennis court. John McEnroe, of course, became famous for those things. You've seen those footages over and over again. And then again, I'm just thinking, there is Rohan Bopanna who's out there, winning, losing on his own terms, etc., showing up every day, having a very less support system around him. Why you not? And it's such an unmanly thing in that sense to do, that the thing that you can really showcase is your anger on the court. Why do you choose to show grace instead of anger?
First of all, I'm buying my rackets. They are getting it for free. so I don't think I can go and afford to really smash my rackets.
That's a
but but that is a funny thing about that also, right? We don't understand sponsorship here in the country.
Yeah.
In terms of tennis, right? I've gone to a lot of companies saying I'm playing this racket. They'll be like, okay, I'll give you 2 rackets.
Yeah.
I said, what am I going to do with 2 rackets? 2 rackets I can buy. Why would I go through a yearly contract for 2 rackets? So I feel I respect, the values of what tools I use.
Yeah.
Because I know it has taken me that much in order to respect the sport, respect everything around me. That sport has taught me so many wonderful things. So yes, I get angry, I get frustrated. I want to, maybe break the racket, but somewhere that's not in me. Maybe I might try and hit the second serve a little bit harder than expected, and maybe serve a double fault in it. That's when the anger comes out more so. And
So I have a last couple of questions on mental health. When Naomi Osaka finally spoke about she didn't hold press conferences and then took a break because of depression. And there's a lot of other female players who are now getting more and more vocal. But among male players, we still see that it's a much tougher thing to talk about. Is that something that you've also faced?
I think just growing up, you're never taught to really go and express yourself that much. It's just been, everything is kind of withheld and you try and manage that. It doesn't come naturally, to just go and speak about it. It's always kept within me, and whether it's made me strong or, weak, I don't know. Even in the circuit, you may know somebody for 20, 30 years, a great friendship, but still you don't really know that person. You know, because you just know them as, you know, you ask somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? You'll be like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm doing great, I'm okay, everything's fine, right? Maybe there's a lot more things happening. You know, you just have inbuilt kind of those feelings have been taught, and for you not to really express that feeling and just move on and, you know, do what you are doing for that many years.
Has mental health been a conversation between the Indian contingent at least?
What has helped is when we traveled together, we had some companionship. That definitely helped. Mental health, talking about it, no. I don't think that was even a topic of conversation. Gossip, yes, but mental health, no. It's just not there. It's just not there.
What happens when you know you lose the Olympics in 2016? And with Sania, and you know, if I had a bad day at my office, it's not the whole world is getting to know of it. But anything that you are having a bad day, the whole country is getting to know of it. What happens then in a situation like that when the whole world has seen you not being able to get to the point where you came so close to?
We had, I think, a really tough time in Rio. I think both of us broke down. And it all happened after the press conference also, because you go immediately as an athlete after a match, all these obligatories which to go and talk, you know, answer these questions, media, do your interviews. And when we came off that, we were just there by ourselves, and you know, we broke down. It was the toughest, heartbreaking loss, you know, because we were that close. And as a tennis player, we know we were that close, right? The magnitude of, you know, getting an Olympic medal would have been amazing for the sport in the country itself. And, you know, everybody just writes you off after that, and you know, you just go through the most difficult time. It took a long time when we got back on the circuit to you know, but our friendship was extremely good, you know, because the first time I played with Sania was when she was 14 years old and I was 21. We played a tournament together, so I think that, you know, friendship really built
How do you recover from something like this, Rohan, when, you know, again the male propensity is that okay, I've lost, but I'm okay. You know, okay, I have got injured, but I'm okay. Okay, that something bad has happened, but it's okay. I'm a man. I can carry on, etc., etc. How do you get to that place where you're humbled by the fact that yes, I am not okay, that I need to work on getting okay?
You know, my wife Supriya and my coach Scott Davidoff, they were there at that point of time, which was needed. And that was probably the first time in my career I was happy that tennis after Olympics was not shown in the country, because everybody forgot who you are. I'm playing, I'm going through the journey, nobody's watching, nobody knows which tournament you're playing. Like you said, your private life, you know, nobody knows what's going on, but our private life is seen, and you know, it's there. The vulnerable moments, you know, are captured. That feeling, even though it's an individual sport, that you need a great team to be around, and these two people have played a tremendous of a role. And somewhere I feel my wife, being a psychologist, also really helped in the way of communicating on how I was feeling, or you know, when I came out of a match, she never advised me on tennis on how to hit a forehand or backhand, but just heard me out, which never was the case before. And you know, I'm thankful that you know, my wife was there to, you know, support, understand that journey, and she's played a huge, you know, part of our role in this you know, part of this journey.
How did you, when you first met her, did you know that she's a psychologist? Was that something that became like a good thing for you to get into, or was that something that scared you at first, that you know, she will be able to know what I'm feeling?
It's a funny story actually. When the time I met her, so back then I was traveling with a physio called Shamal Walabji. We called him Veg because he was vegetarian. This was in 2010, and Veg and myself decided, if I make my first quarterfinals of a Grand Slam, we'll shave our heads.
Okay.
don't know why we came up with that. This was just so random. I mean, you have never been to a quarterfinal, so I mean that vision is far away, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know that it's going to happen. And little did we know that in Wimbledon that same year, I'm going to make my quarterfinals.
Yeah.
We lose the quarterfinals match, Qureshi and me. And we go into the locker room, and at Wimbledon, next to the locker room, there's a barber shop.
Yeah.
We said, you know what, we have taken the bet. So we go straight into the barber shop and shave our head, so fully bald. Coming to the story is when with my cousin and few other friends, I'd invested in a bar in Bangalore.
Okay.
So, and my cousin brother, my father's brother's son, Pramod, he is always bald. He knew Supriya before. So we went to this bar, and the Football World Cup was going on, and we were showing it on the big screen. And he introduced me to Supriya. And she said, oh, he's my cousin. And first reaction of hers was, oh, she thought in the family everybody was just bald. Because I had just come back from Wimbledon. This was in 2010. So that is the first impression of what she got of me. And and I was traveling, and I exchanged numbers with her, and I was in touch with her from constant travels. And my dad's brother, my uncle, he used to get my phone bill every time. And he used to wonder, who's this one number? It's constant, just going on. And the bill used to just come up every month significantly. Suddenly, this has changed. I mean, he used to get it. And, 1.5 years later, we started dating. And then end of 2012, we got married. And that is kind of, the first time I got to meet her. And I was bald. And, somehow that impression stayed, actually.
Fantastic story. When was the first time that Supriya even said that, I think you need to either talk to me or I need to talk to you? Is there something she said that was valuable?
I felt indirectly it helped me in terms of the way I communicated with my partners. So sometimes I would come up to her and say, this is not working. Then, so she would actually listen to me and say, why don't you try this out? Maybe try this approach. And I think that is where I felt she really helped that aspect.
You know what this is reminding me of? Leander Paes and Mahesh Bhupathi actually did a documentary recently, as you know. And
I was in that.
Yeah, of course, exactly. so there was an interview that they had done around it, which I'd seen, where they spoke about the fact that when they had that 2012, the fallout that they had at that point of time, Leander Paes actually said that I wish I knew how to communicate, because I was the senior person in the team and I should have picked the phone and I should have taken him out just for like a lunch or a dinner, and then actually had a heart-to-heart. And you played with both of them over the years. What is it that you took out of that situation that has helped you in your life?
The biggest thing was for me is to bring that communication with your players from your own country. Because it was the most difficult time me coming into that scenario, because yes, they were going through their moments. I was in the Davis Cup team, part of that atmosphere. I still remember first time I came there and I walk in to breakfast and Leander is sitting in one side, Mahesh is sitting in one side. Now I'm telling myself, where do I sit? Right? What is the thing? I think that it's probably the slowest self-service I did in that buffet table, trying to gather and wonder, what am I going to do? Do I sit with Leander? Do I sit with Mahesh? Do I sit in the third table? So by the time I took my own time, luckily for me, Leander left the break. But it was, trust me, it was not fun. It was extremely difficult, but I got along better with Mahesh. It is just that over the years, the way we communicated, the way our friendship was, I got along better with him. But I said, I will never do this to any, athlete in terms of, the way you bringing that, some way negative energy in the room. It was always very difficult to be in that in the team atmosphere. That's when I realized how much team competition a good coach or a good captain really makes, because it is about managing egos more than managing the team.
On the other hand, one of the greatest tennis moments that I've seen again is Federer and Nadal, and then Federer is retiring, both of them crying on screen, Federer reaching out for Nadal's hand, Nadal, who's his greatest rival, also crying with him, and having that on live television. It's one of the most vulnerable moments I've seen in any sports anywhere, and it's two rivals doing that. What is the one thing that you've learned from Federer and Nadal each? Spending some time with them or playing with them?
How they, again, goes back to respect, of how they respected their peers, and they valued, the other players also. They never took anything for granted, even though they have won numerous Grand Slam. I know Rafa, for example, every time he stepped on that court, he felt if he didn't play his best, there was chance that he might lose. Somebody who, having that much confidence also, right? The commitment they bring in, that is what I think the sport has really taught. And to sustain it for 20 years, 22, 25 years, in any field, let alone sport, in any field, it is a significant amount of sacrifice and time.
And my final part of this is, what is the one thing you've learned from Supriya and from your daughter? And how are you showing up for her? How are you being a good husband to her?
That you need to ask her. that you need to ask her. I think, I think we are constantly pushing and growing with each other. I think we understand our roles of, how we, support each other. And I really... I think respect, what she does and what she's bringing, to the table, not only to me, but also being a psychologist, right? I mean, it's still a taboo in the country, to be honest. And, she has also been through a lot. For someone who has come into that limelight, not, being anywhere part of that journey, at least for me, it has been a gradual step. She has come into it straight away. And she has... faced the brunt of it many times. I mean, because people just say whatever they want, and I see it. It's not easy. And our daughter's been the total emotional side of me, which has really come into my life. It made me softer for sure. I think she knows that, and every time I'm at home, she makes full use of that. Now she's gotten a situation where she understands when I'm traveling for tournaments. But say, for example, I'm doing this show with you. She's like, but why are you doing? Why are you going there? You don't have a tennis tournament. So
I'm so sorry, dude. I feel so bad now.
And then I feel I'm miles away. Should I be back home being there with her, or should I be playing? Sometimes, especially when you're losing and you have that mind, idle, and you're thinking, so that is the side which has made me softer.
And this has been such a raw, real, unfiltered, authentic conversation. I really want to thank you for being so inspiring today.
Thank you, Nikhil.
I cannot tell you the level of respect I have for you, for what you have managed to achieve for yourself and for our country. And I hope our country is able to show up for you more.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. It was actually wonderful to have this chat. I mean, I don't think I've ever sat down with someone to express this much in detail of my life.
I'm really grateful for you to saying that. So we have this segment called Women Want to Know. Lots of women have questions for the men on our show. So can we have the video, please?
Oh, wow.
Hi, Rohan. So I wanted to ask you, as an athlete, you're always kind of not wanting to show your vulnerability and show as much bravado as you can in order to make your opponent feel a little weak. So if you've grown up in this atmosphere ever since you were young, how difficult is it, or how easy is it for you to become vulnerable once you get home?
To be honest, I think before I got married, it was extremely difficult to express that.
Yeah.
It's only once I got married and I got to know about, with psychology and how much it can help you in that journey is when I started expressing myself. I don't think that first 30 years or 32 years of my life, I was even anywhere close to expressing how vulnerable I am. So, thanks to Supriya, that side of me has changed and, helped me grow as a person also.
I think we have this show to thank her as well. I don't think if she was there, this show would have happened in the way that it has. So thank you,
agree.
Supriya. So we have a segment that I really enjoy. It's called Kind Shoutouts. We give you some platitudes. We'll give you some adjectives, and you have to tell me the name of a man that comes to your mind when I read these things out. Who is a man who you look up to when it comes to masculinity in tennis?
Rafael Nadal. I think he's an extremely amazing role model to the sport. And he's someone who brings in 200% every single day.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the practice court, golf course, tennis matches, anytime, anything he does, it's 200%.
Who's a man whose hard work you admire a lot?
Denis Shapovalov, who I've got to know extremely well for a long period of time, and I used to see him off the tennis courts firsthand of the hard work he has put in, and I really believe, especially at a young age, at 18, 19, to put in that kind of work. I'd never seen that when I was growing up. So,
a man who makes you feel safe.
In my closest friends, Sharat and Apana, they, guys who I've grown up with and, who make me extremely safe.
That's really sweet. The best listener you know?
My wife.
I mean, you have to say a man.
If I have to say a man...
but good answer. You're very quick. Doesn't matter.
There hasn't been a better listener than
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
The sexiest man on the circuit?
I think Grigor Dimitrov. He is always top-notched, whether on court, off court.
The most expressive man on the circuit?
Nick Kyrgios. There is no question.
He
is undoubtedly the most expressive, I think.
The funniest man you know?
Again, I go back to my cousin Pramod. He lights up a room every time he walks in. And there's another friend of mine called Sriranga. These two guys really light up a room no matter where they go.
Who is the kindest, most generous man in the circuit?
Novak.
Yeah.
Novak is, he is somebody who's genuinely trying to, help, younger athletes do a lot more for the sport and, try and improve that.
Finally, a sports person outside of tennis that you admire?
I think Virat. Yeah. Virat is somebody, I think, who brings that day in, day out. He not only for himself, but expects everyone else to also bring that commitment. And also outside the, cricket field, he, I think, really make sure he respects his own body on what he's eating, how he's managing all that, and I think definitely Virat.
And he's a good guy. I think that's something that's becoming very clear. Thank you.
Absolutely.
This is good. I think very quick answers. And our final segment is going to put a smile on your face. It's a segment called Men Complimenting Men, presented by the Man Company. We've got a lot of comments from men who have written on your Instagram and have given you compliments, and we'd love to see your reaction to it.
From Sachin Tendulkar, your moment can arrive anytime, anywhere. Just ask Rohan Bopanna, who's at 43, seized it on the grand stage of the Australian Open. Keep training, keep dreaming, and be prepared to step up when your time comes. It is beautiful. I was lucky enough to have met him a few times, and he's a big fan of tennis also, and somebody as big as him who has given such a big inspiration to this country. It's beautiful, beautiful. This is from Karan Sethi. Great to see him on the pod and address one issue that Indian tennis fans have regarding why India doesn't really produce quality singles players. Wish him the best in all his upcoming matches, and hopefully his academy produces top quality talent. Oh, so sweet. Thanks, Karan.
Your academy,
it's my academy actually. It's very dear to my heart. I started this 7 years ago. Wanted to actually give back to the sport, and one of the new initiatives we are starting next month is we are bringing 25 underprivileged kids and bringing them to the academy. We did really a selection process in the northeast of the country in 2 tribes in Majuli and Bongaigaon. Introduced tennis to about 400 kids. I'm extremely excited to this new project, and I really feel everyone needs to be given an opportunity.
I have no doubt your academy is going to do a wonderful job.
Thank you, Nikhil. Harshil Gupta. Bopanna says he doesn't have any cartilage in his knees. Still, he manages to win the Australian Open and be world number 1. Truly astounding. Yes, Harshil. I don't know how I do it, but no cartilage is very true. My doctor also is in shock on what all goes through my body. Literally, recently I went to Bangalore and I said, what, doc, I need to do a full MRI of my body just to see what ligaments are working, what are not working. So, yeah.
But I hope you keep pushing.
Yeah,
I hope you don't stop because you're inspiring us all. This is a good one.
Oh, from the number 1 himself, Novak Djokovic. Congratulations, Bobs. Amazing effort, and to do it at such a young age, even more impressive. It's beautiful, and you have peers complimenting and understanding how difficult the journey is, and to be able to do something in this sport and achieve the best. And when they do compliment you, it's very humbling. Very humbling.
There's another one.
Neeraj Chopra, congratulations Rohan Bopanna for winning your maiden Australian Open doubles title. An incredible effort of not giving up and pushing your limits on the court every time. Wouldn't have been possible without your partner Matthew Ebden and the team behind. Very true. And Neeraj, as we all know, he's brought a new inspiration for a sport like javelin. And I met him at Asian Games last year. Wonderful human being, and I think this is what a country needs. People like him, champions like him, to grow sport in the country.
And it's so nice to see all the Indian sports people acknowledging the work that you have put in and the effort it's taken you to get here.
It is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
Kalpit Shataria, continuous awards जीतने का तरीका थोड़ा casual है. Keep making Bharat proud. Kalpit, we shall definitely try and do that. Thank you for all the support, love, and Nikhil, this definitely brought a lovely smile, and thank you for having me on this show. It was beautiful. I'm glad I agreed to do this because I was not sure whether how vulnerable or expressive I wanted to be, but I think you made me comfortable enough to, just speak my mind and, just be myself. And thank you for that.
Thank you, Rohan. I feel, again, I'm feeling a urge of generosity, and the way that I like to end every episode is actually asking for a hug. Can I give you a hug?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
As long as it's a warm one.
It is.
Ready
and then hopefully you'll have an answer to that question.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rohan. Be a man, yaar.
But usse pehle, be a human, yaar. So, if you like this conversation, please subscribe to We Are You Are on all platforms.
And keep following Rohan's career, the work. What an inspiration this man is. Listen to the extended and unfiltered conversation before any other platform on Amazon Music, which you get with your Amazon Prime membership as well.
We get abuses every day. Social media is great, but you get that abuses also. It's constant. It's hard. Every day you need to wake up and say, be strong, be there. You're away from family, away from friends. You're sitting there in these hotel rooms. There was a time for good 4.5 months, I didn't win a match.
Yeah.
So you're doing that. It's brutal.
The feeling of watching Jaane Tu all the way through is a feeling of being held. The girl who was cast as young Aisha Jhulka. I think I had a little bit of a crush on her. Aamir has a history of nicking bits of my wardrobe. He stole a pair of my jeans wherein Tare Zameen Par. You can wear pink, you can wear jewelry. How are you less of a man in that way? I would wake up in the middle of the night, unable to breathe, and I would lie there until sunrise. How do you respect a man who's not earning? How do you respect a man who's not getting up and going to work? The guy who's just lying down on a sofa and crying about his feelings. Now my primary role is to be the best father that I can be.